All right, so we're gonna start off with Monday. Monday started off with an easy run in the morning. I think it was around 12 clicks for this easy run. So easy just means kind of comfortable pace. I try to make sure my heart rate's kind of in between zone 2 to maybe low zone 3. Again, it does get pretty humid and hot, so your heart rate kind of drifts up in Singapore, unfortunately. But I try my best to keep my easy runs truly easy. I either listen to a podcast or even kind of like have no music. In this particular run, I thought like I just needed some headspace. So I only brought my phone, and I think I probably brought a gel or so. And yeah, I kind of just like cruise down here in my own thoughts. It's always good to kind of like just start off the week with a bit of an easier run. I personally like that better than kind of starting off the week with like a really hard run. It's just mentally easier for me to kind of get going. So that was like the morning session, and it was actually a double day. So Monday, I had that easy run around kind of like 10 a.m. or even 11 a.m. after my morning clients. And then I kind of have more clients after that. And then I did my strength session, which is my second session of the day, later on at about 3 to 4 p.m. So my strength session basically is a full body. I always do a full body, and the past 2 to 3 months now, I am only doing pretty much 2 to 3 strength sessions per week. Most of the time though, I can only do 2 sessions per week because I feel like that's enough for me personally. And again, I know this is very individualized. Some people might do 3 times per week of strength sessions, but with my priority being half marathon, I like to kind of have more days of my running versus my strength. I have built up quite, extensive period of training years. So I do have kind of the bigger base when it comes to my strength. But yeah, so kind of Monday session has some deadlifts, basically really, really heavy deadlifts on that day. And I was pretty proud of myself. I did about 30 kilos at the top set. And then I did some 1 to 2 second pause squats. I know it doesn't look like I'm pausing that low at the bottom, but yes, pause squats, just around like 80 kilos into some weighted pull-ups. I built up to, I think, 3 reps at 17.5 kilos for a top set. So yeah, if you notice, like my rep schemes are not really high as I get closer to the half marathon race. I try and keep my rep ranges pretty low, but my weight load pretty heavy. And then I did some accessory / bodybuilding finishers. So we have some incline dumbbell bench press on here. And then I did pretty much core at the end. So the strength sessions don't need to be complicated at all. I think a lot of people try and put too much in a session. When it comes to full body, I think being able to like hit main groups is important, obviously. And then again, and add a bit of accessory at the end. But that is currently like what my structure looks like when it comes to strength sessions. I don't like to put too many because again, time, I like to respect my time. I don't like to spend too long at the gym, 90 minutes at the very max. And that includes the warm-up. Being done in 75 minutes is amazing for me. I don't think I should be at the gym any longer than I should. But yeah, that's pretty much Monday. And I think I just want to start off kind of this video to explain how I started training in the first place and what my history, my background is leading up to where I am today. But so I've always been a competitive individual since I was younger. I definitely was not a girly girl per se. I mean, I remember my mom got me into ballet when I was very young, but absolutely hated it. I think I totally remember I just did not like to wear pink. Ironically, I am wearing pink, but I just did not like wearing pink. I did not like wearing tights. I did not wearing the leotard, did not like the tutu, absolutely not, and just did not enjoy my first ballet session. That is a memory that I will keep in my head. But from that ballet session, and I think that was like, honestly, like that was before I got into like grade school. And as soon as I started school, that was when I was obviously exposed to sports. We always had PE in school growing up. It was mandatory, and PE is something that I excelled in very, I guess you could say, just naturally and easily. I've always like wanted to be the top one. Actually, I've always wanted to win in every single thing in the girls category. And even then, I actually was very competitive that I wanted to beat the boys as well in PE. But yeah, I've always actually just got into activities and sports at a very young age. I don't actually remember what sport I got into in the first place, but whatever PE, whatever stuff the PE teacher was teaching you, the sport that he or she was teaching you, that was just something that I picked up very quickly. Yeah, and I think that's how my competitiveness started. It just genuinely came naturally to me. I don't really remember like at one point of time where it clicked. I do remember, vaguely when I was younger, I just always wanted to beat the fastest boy in class or the fastest anyone in the session. And I refused to be basically top 3. But I mean, first place is always great, but if you ain't first, you're last. So that's basically my history of being like a competitive child. But when it comes to like written stuff, maths and everything like that, the competitive side of me were just like, oh, I'll just settle for the average here and there and just kind of pass. I mean, I'd be happy with, anything above 70%. So that's pretty much how I kind of got into sports in the first place. Obviously, I dabbled into various of sports when I was younger. I did the one sport that I loved the most was basically basketball, as it was just so fun to play with in a team setting. Obviously, I did dabble in individual sports. I think like I actually really enjoyed just the sprints and everything when it comes to like the running setting, but I never got into the long endurance side, and that's why I guess that's one thing I'm here now, is to do the long endurance stuff. Anyways, fast forward to kind of like middle school, maybe high school. That's kind of when I got into strength training. Again, I think it was just going into a gym for the first time and then just like looked into like how people are moving, and obviously my friends did help me introduce me to, weight training. And that's kind of how I started. And then it kind of just, I kept doing it. And it was still part of kind of my lifestyle. Even when I was in school, I would go to the condo gym maybe like once in a week, just to kind of like, okay, do extra core work or do extra, biceps and tricep work and shoulders. I don't know, I don't remember. But the first time I did step foot into a like training gym and actually picked up some dumbbells is, I would say, maybe like 15, 16. And that's kind of how I started training. And pretty much continued, and strength resistance training have been part of my life since then. And I am 30 years old, so that's a long time. 15 plus years. During university, so I obviously played basketball and then also did some football in high school. Did do competitions and, matches and everything with the team, with the high school team. And then when I got into uni, it was kind of like a tough decision whether I wanted to continue basketball or whether I wanted to continue football. And I did choose football instead. I don't know why. I do kind of look back and regret it a little, but I think because I was like doing so many years of basketball back in school that I was like, okay, like I didn't really do a lot of football. Maybe it's time for me to like go into that side. But yeah, I think basketball was always first sport love. Yeah, and then first year of uni, again, I did not continue, and I think that is one thing with a lot of people, like once they are in uni, there's so many other things that they want to be part of, social life and all that. So I stopped after first year of university, but I still continued to strength train because, again, I just couldn't stop. Like activity and exercise is just always part of my life. So I just kind of went to the gym regularly and just did my own thing. I think I just followed like bodybuilding.com type of like templates. The OG bodybuilding.com. And that's how I got into bodybuilding, because at second year of university, that's how I met one of my good friends, James Corbin, and he did a bodybuilding show. And I think that's how I was exposed to like, oh, wow, there's actually like the female category. Again, now that I think of it, every time when I look back, I'm like, yeah, if the guys can do it, I need to find a way how the girls can do it too. So yeah, I got into the female bodybuilding category. That's how I got exposed to bikini bodybuilding. And actually, tracking macros and the nutrition side of things. So everything kind of just like all happened at the same time, at the right place. It was all God's timing, honestly. When I look back, it just was perfect. Yes, and that's basically how I got into bodybuilding. And then bodybuilding did a show, but during the preparation of that show, of my first show, that's how I got into CrossFit, because I just found out about CrossFit. There was a time where CrossFit was also booming in a sense. It was 2013, 2012. And that's how I came across this little CrossFit gym near my university called CrossFit Ivy. And I got into CrossFit so much during the prep of bodybuilding. So I was actually like deep into the prep. I think maybe like 7 weeks in, dieting and, you know, getting lean, getting shredded. Obviously going into a CrossFit gym, I was trying to, you know, it felt good. I think like you're just like, oh my God, I'm seeing results. At the same time, I'm able to do all these CrossFit things. And again, it clicked very quickly for me, like all the, you know, gymnastics and all that stuff in CrossFit. So it came so naturally. But I think what I was a bit sad about, like as I was prepping for this bodybuilding competition, I just didn't see bodybuilding comps as like a sport. And I mean, even to today, it's very, no offense to anyone, but even to today, I find it very hard to actually ever consider that as a sport. I do respect everyone that does it, you know, to compete, and that is their kind of life that they choose. But again, it just wasn't it for me. Like I was just like, no, like I just need to test my personal skills in a competition floor, or my personal skills of like training hard in terms of like testing what I can do, whether it is, you know, how fast I can run or how heavy I can lift, etc. You know, getting into CrossFit during prepping for bodybuilding, it was hard. I was just like, oh, do I really continue with bodybuilding? But I really love this CrossFit thing. So I made a promise to myself that once I step on stage and I do the show and I'm done with that, as in I'm literally done, one and done, do that one show, I'll do CrossFit because I like it better. I love the community. You know, I got to meet a lot of cool, amazing people at that CrossFit Ivy gym, including my husband, Stu. And that's how I got into CrossFit. And I think it was just, again, such a quick transition from one thing to another. It all happened so quick, and that's how my CrossFit journey started, and how my weightlifting journey started, how my coaching journey started, and how my relationship with Stu started, how the love evolved, and basically led me to where I am today. All right, let's talk about Tuesday. So on Tuesday, I did a interval session. So this is my speed work of the week. This week's Tuesday was basically 4 sets of 800 meters, 6 sets of 400 meters, and 6 sets of 200 meters. I think this session went all right. It did not go according to plan. When it comes to speed sessions, I have this bad habit of starting out too hot. So that's basically what happened. I did the 800s way too fast because the purpose and intent of the session was basically to get gradually faster in terms of pace as the distance decreases. But unfortunately, went out very, very hot. And then 400s and 200s felt really, really shit. I still kind of like tried to keep up, and it wasn't too bad, but definitely not one of my best sessions. But speaking of kind of like what I just mentioned earlier regarding kind of how I started training and how I got into all these things and kind of led me to where I am today, I think how I got into nutrition is also a big part of this whole a big part of me. I think, like I said, I got into bodybuilding back in university. So I did my first ever bikini bodybuilding competition. And that's basically how I got into understanding the importance of nutrition. It wasn't necessarily through, you know, the sports and everything. However, I must say that I was privileged enough, and I'm very grateful and thankful for my parents. As my upbringing, you know, food was always part of our life. Like I never had a bad experience in food, in the sense that I wasn't told not to eat certain things versus to eat only these things. versus, and all these things about like cleaning up your food. You can only have dessert if you only have this. All this, upbringing may affect, how we approach food. So I'm very thankful for my parents for that, in the sense that food was always very neutral, I guess, in my life. But yeah, so I got into kind of like tracking and understanding calories, understanding macros, understanding protein, what protein, fats, and carbohydrates are through the bodybuilding prep that I did. Again, very, very lucky back then that I, did my research. I followed this bikini pro bodybuilder. Her name is Brittany Tacey. I absolutely adored and admired her physique. She just had the most athletic physique back then when I was following her. And I actually reached out to her, and she was actually helping some clients of hers do bikini bodybuilding that time. And she was the one who got me into, understanding how calorie deficits work. And her approach was basically tracking macros and tracking calories and weighing food. And as you prepare for this bodybuilding show. So honestly, it was just the right place at the right time. I got in touch with her, and it was great because I did not have a bad experience with my first bodybuilding show, because back then in 2012 a lot of people were just cutting through eating broccoli and maybe tilapia, maybe chicken, and unfortunately some people still do that till today, and unfortunately I still knew people that did it in 2022. So it was very amazing to kind of reflect back that I was lucky to have her, guiding me along the way of that 12-week bodybuilding prep, to the point that I, didn't only have chicken and broccoli. I still had sweet potato. I still had rice at peak week. I wasn't cutting out food groups at all. I was still eating basically normally, just obviously more stricter, I needed to be strict with my calories basically. So that's how I got into understanding more of how calorie deficits work, how I was able to manipulate my body. I was able to see the changes in my body, see the results in my body through basically strength training, through bodybuilding, and counting your macros. But I guess you could say that's one thing when you get access and get more understanding and get more knowledge of knowing how to manipulate your body and knowing how calorie deficits work. That comes with its costs. So, and it comes with the ugly of nutrition. Of course, I think CrossFit really helped me transitioning out of the bodybuilding phase, because when I got straight into CrossFit, I was immediately surrounded by, people that didn't do it as strict as I did when I was tracking my food. I was surrounded by people that immediately focused more on how they performed in the gym, how, they wanted to see results in how much they lifted, how much they snatched, clean, deadlift, back squat, how fast they can run, etc. So the transition from that phase to CrossFit was great, and I didn't develop that disordered eating habit, but I must say I then developed it the second time I got into bodybuilding. And I think it does come and go, like this whole disordered eating habits that I had. I think when it comes to the fitness industry, a lot of us do struggle with body dysmorphia, especially those who have done a show before, because we have seen our bodies at the leanest, lowest body fat levels. So it does skew up your perception of things. And I know for a fact that it is a big problem till today. And I know a lot of females and males do still experience that side of the ugliness of basically nutrition. But I think from learning that, the bodybuilding show, that's how I got interested in more of the sciencey things in nutrition. And that's how I when I started coaching, when I started my CrossFit coaching career, I guess you could say, I was more interested in helping people in the nutrition side of things, in addition to obviously coaching them in terms of like the movements and stuff. All right, so moving on, we're gonna go on to Wednesday session. So Wednesday, one of my favorite days, because I get to weightlift, and I get to weightlift with Stu. And we've actually made a pact to keep, our Wednesday afternoons to weightlift together, because again, that's kind of like our time together. Even though we do work in the same place, we own the same gym. Honestly, people think that we spend a lot of time basically every hour of the day, but we actually don't. We have our own, individual responsibilities. So we actually don't spend that much quality time throughout the week. And even training together, I find it's now very, very rare. So ever since I got weightlifting back into my training, Stu also got started doing some more weightlifting again. I think that was just a good kind of like couple pack that we made to be able to train together, and especially train weightlifting is kind of like how we basically met, and it's kind of like a big passion for us. So yeah, Wednesday is my weightlifting day. So this particular week I went out to Method X. So I do sometimes train outside of Elevate. So for weightlifting, sometimes Method X, or another gym that I go to is the Lion's Den. So today was a weightlifting session. On this particular sessions, again, it's a full body. I would do hang power cleans, some squats. I did some hip thrusts, and again, some accessory work. So usually accessory could be upper body and then some more core work. So very similar to kind of like a Monday session. So yeah, kind of like, I think following how I got into nutrition, I think I'd like to kind of continue talking about how I became a coach and how I got into the industry in the first place. The transition from bodybuilding, my first bodybuilding show, to CrossFit, I made a lot of friends, and I made a lot of, there was a good community back then in the UK. How I met Stu was basically Stu was doing some coaching in CrossFit Ivy as well, particularly helping his coach, Kazim, back then to assist. So he was kind of the assistant coach in weightlifting. And that's how I got into weightlifting. I did weightlifting classes with Kazim, and he was also my first ever weightlifting coach. He was the one who taught me how to weightlift, including Stu, but Kazim was the main guy. He was, honestly, without Kazim, we wouldn't have been lifters. We wouldn't have been doing the technique that we do today. So shout out to Kazim. But yeah, so I met Kazim in CrossFit Ivy, and he obviously saw the passion that I developed in weightlifting and the skill. I learned pretty quickly. He saw that I had the drive and I had the eagerness to learn. And one time he just kind of like asked me if I wanted to help out in coaching. He brought me here. So he was also coaching like a bunch of like girls and also young guys in a high school, middle school. I forgot the name, but basically back in the UK, a bunch of middle school, high school kids coach weightlifting because it was part of their GCSE, and they did like a weightlifting comp or like a mini weightlifting comp, I don't know, back then. And then he was like, hey, come down and help me out. I need a couple of students, a couple of you guys to help me out in this comp. And that's kind of how I started. I then helped like a bunch of girls to clean, to snatch, literally based on how, like, I coached them through me learning how to snatch and clean and jerk myself. Obviously, I think Kazim didn't just get a newbie me. This was like 6 to 8 months deep into learning the clean and the snatch, the clean, jerk, and snatch. Through that, I found the love of coaching. Particularly weightlifting first. That's how I learned how to coach. That's how I learned how to kind of use what I knew in my head to teach a 14, 15-year-old female to actually lift the bar. So that's how I got into it. And through more experience of doing that and doing CrossFit at the same time, doing weightlifting at the same time during my spare time, I was interested to kind of like take a CrossFit level 1 cert, a coaching cert. That again is all in UK. I think I took my cert kind of after I graduated from university. Again, I graduated with a business degree, nothing to do with fitness. Yeah, and then during that transition of graduating, that's when I got my CrossFit cert. And that's when I started doing some coaching. And from CrossFit coaching, that led to being exposed to personal training, that led to being exposed to working with one-on-ones, working with group settings, and now I'm here. And obviously, like I said, nutrition was always kind of like happening behind the scenes. I was upskilling through taking a bunch of courses and applying the nutrition that I've learned in the course to myself, to helping other people. And it led me to where I am today, opening my own gym with Stu and Dylan and leading the nutrition side of Elevate, being the head of nutrition of Elevate, also being part of the nutrition education team for Unreal. And yeah, this is an outfit change because I was trying to record for however many takes and it just wasn't recording. So I'm actually on my way. In about 30 minutes, I'm going for a run. Yeah, outfit change. Shout out to LSKD. So Thursday is my tempo day, and my tempo days, I usually do this on the treadmill. Usually Thursday is a little bit of a busy morning. So the only time that I could train is literally in the middle of the day, which is too hot and too just scorching hot. But yeah, the tempo was 3K on the 3K warm up into 8 sets of 300 meter fast, 300 meter moderate, and then into a 3K cool down. But yeah, I'm gonna continue on talking more about my training philosophies and how it's evolved. So I think for those of you guys who have been following me on my Instagram over the past few years, over the decade basically, my training philosophy and approaches have definitely changed depending on where I am at and what phase of life and my goals, etc. So when I was doing a lot of CrossFit, I was obviously doing more of a CrossFit approach in my training because I was competing. And then similarly with weightlifting, I had 2 years in 2020, 2021 where I fully focused on really wanting to see how I can push in my snatch, my clean and jerk, and getting stronger in my overall lift. And then went into a bodybuilding phase again, dabbled into it again for about a year. And that is done for now. Not for now, done. I'm not going back there anymore. And then now where I'm at today, it's basically a balance of endurance and power sports. Obviously, after my bodybuilding stint again, I went through kind of like a few months where I wanted to find things that I love to do again. I feel like I felt a bit lost after that bodybuilding year. So to make training fun again, I obviously got back to my old roots. Functional fitness is always the way to go for me, and obviously getting back into weightlifting. But I wanted to challenge myself a bit. So that's where I got into high rocks. And, if it weren't for high rocks, I wouldn't be running. So thanks to High Rocks for that. But I signed up for a High Rocks race as a partners race in June 2024 last year. So I trained for that, and that's how I got into running and started doing more running in my training. But after the High Rocks race, I said never again. I'm not itching to go back again. Maybe if I do it again, I don't know when, but I know a few of my friends have asked me to do it with them. Maybe someday, maybe, but at the moment, no. So that's how I kind of like stayed with running. I didn't want to lose running again because I know how hard I worked to get to a point where I actually enjoyed my running sessions. Stu actually signed me up for a half marathon last year in December, and that's how I got into running long distances. And that's when my training philosophies changed again. Obviously, knowing me, if it weren't on brand, like I wanted a challenge through training for the half marathon. So my challenge was basically I wanted to balance two completely opposing sports. One, weightlifting, which is very power sports, absolute strength, and then one long endurance type, monostructural. So it's basically the running. So that is a challenge in itself. I find that it is very, very hard one to balance for sure, because obviously I definitely notice it throughout my training that keeping power whilst you're doing a lot of long and slow aerobic work and long distances is difficult. I find there are days where the power is there, where I feel snappy in my clean, I feel snappy in my power clean and power snatches. And there are moments where it just does not feel great. So I find it's been very fulfilling and I absolutely enjoy it. Until today, I still do it. Even through training for my duathlon that I did earlier this year, I still managed to still keep my weightlifting. So it's currently where I'm at in terms of like my training approaches, and I'm absolutely enjoying it. So I think it's just one thing that's for sure though, if you aren't growing as a person, or if you aren't evolving in your training philosophies, in your training methodologies compared to where you were 10, 15 years ago, something's not right. I think it is important for us to keep experiencing new things, to keep learning. And yeah, and I mean, understanding and reflecting through this video, like just chatting to you guys about it, is like, it makes me realize that I am that person who likes to try things and myself and experience it firsthand myself before I apply it and before I actually like, recommend it to people. So yeah. So moving on to Friday. Friday is my rest day. So I have actually started incorporating Fridays as my rest day because it is pretty hectic at the gym and I am pretty much back to back from 7 a.m. or sometimes 6 a.m. up to pretty much 4 p.m. Maybe I have like a 30-minute break in the morning a little and then 30 minutes after lunch. But yeah, Friday's pretty hectic and I've basically incorporated a full rest day. I am still unfortunately at the gym, but I try to basically do nothing that involves lifting weights or running, because I know Saturday and Sunday is actually a pretty big weekend. Particularly for this training week, I only had a 20K long run on the Saturday and Sunday is rest day, but usually I'll have a long run on Saturday and then another recovery run on Sunday, which I'll do with Stu. But so Friday, it's basically all about rest and recovery. I think a hill that I will die on to this day is the importance of rest and the importance of literally like not even active rest, but just complete rest. I think a lot of people till today that I know are still not resting, which is honestly, personally for me, it's just absolutely mind-blowing. I do understand though, if you are working a pretty desk-bound job, but if you are at a desk-bound job and you're doing 10,000 steps a day and you're doing training every day, double days, all in one go and not resting, you need to check yourself before you wreck yourself. But yeah, my mindset towards recovery and rest is super important. I take my deload seriously. I take my recovery week after a competition seriously, and I take my rest very seriously. I think I definitely burn out very quickly. I do give off type A personality vibes and, very, very like highly high performing competitive type of person. So if I'm not careful, I do burn out. And I mean, I've had experiences of burnout over the years now as a PT, as a coach, but also as someone who likes to do competitive sports. Rest and recovery is a crucial part. And I think one thing that, a saying that I'm sure you've heard before, you can't pour from a empty cup. So I try and make sure all aspects of my life is equally important. When I put too much on one thing, all the other stuff starts to deteriorate. So I gotta water all my plants, all my plants in my life. And that would mean, again, relationships, big thing that I value. My family, my friends, obviously my relationship with my husband is, again, crucial to me. Movement is obviously crucial. As you know, I love to move, but if I am just focusing on movement and nothing else, it just doesn't work well. So making sure I rest away from all the activities that I do is important. So during my rest, Friday, I know I'm still at the gym, but usually Friday or Sunday, that's when I focus on other things, like quality time with the dogs. I do a lot of activities outside the gym, of course. So Sundays, I'd go for, a beach day with the dogs and Stu, catching up with friends, brunch, eating out, or even just like, Stu likes to cook at home. So having that quality time together is very important. But yeah, I think a lot of people just underestimate the importance of rest, when it comes to like deloading especially, or even just like taking a break from a competition. So a lot of people, they do a high rocks race or they do like a weightlifting comp or a CrossFit comp or whatever, and they immediately go back to the gym the next day or even that week itself. Again, it's so important to just take a step back, actually sit, rest, digest what just happened. We live in a world of hustle, and something that I've learned recently is that hustle mindset comes from a scarcity mindset. And no, like I refuse to be that person. I refuse to be that person who's always like hustle. I think it's important to just have your R&R. Good for the mind, it's good for the soul, it's good for the heart, it's good for the spirit. So yeah, take it slow. take it slow, guys. It doesn't have to be that serious. And finally, we have Saturday, which is my 20K long run race-based efforts within that long run. This was probably the worst long run to date in this half marathon training block. I was absolutely gutted. It went the way it went. So one of my good running friends, Indira, she actually usually joins the whole of a long run with me, but that morning she could only do a 6K. So I had 14 kilometers by myself, and it was the most depressing 14 kilometer. I texted her probably multiple times that day saying, I can't do this, I want to give up. But honestly, she was a trooper. She actually told me to just, it's okay, just finish it off, even though if it's slow. So I got the 20Ks in, and I think it's good to kind of continue this chat about the importance of community and just friendships and people that share the same energy, share the same training goals, share the same training philosophies with you. The past few weeks, obviously, I have been grateful. I'm so grateful to have Indira to join in my long runs, and sometimes she joins in my easy runs as well, so it doesn't seem so lonely out there. I do like to train by myself. I do find that is fulfilling for me, and I find, I feel so much energized doing my solo sessions, but I find equally important to do my other training sessions also with people. So my weightlifting sessions with Stu, and sometimes other friends that are around in the gym, that really helps. And then of course, doing this long run with Indira the past couple of weeks have helped so much, because if I were to do all my long runs alone with race-based efforts, I feel like I wouldn't have continued this half marathon training block. So shout out to Indira for that. But this is why training with people matters. And I think community, just surrounding yourself with people who support you, surrounding yourself with people who want to see you win, and vice versa. And I think over the years, that is always a pattern and always something that is important through all years of my life, where I was a CrossFitter, where I was a bodybuilder, where I was a weightlifter, where I was, playing team sports when I was younger. Community is there, I was doing it with with people that share the same values, share the same beliefs, and it honestly helps. And I think you can apply this to anything. An example is my career. Dylan, Stu, and we have been working together for a long time now. We have the same values in and outside of the gym. We value similar things even in our personal life, which helps whenever, we talk about things that's outside of career and job. And of course, your friendships, having friends that support you and whatever you do, whether it's training, whether it's another hobby, whether it's your career, you try to have those friends that lift you up. And of course, you would definitely do the same for them. So the power of community, and I'm proud to have a big value that Elevate, our gym, has, is also the power of community. We pride in inviting like-minded individuals who are high performers, come into this space, come into the studio, and they come in from different walks of life and different career paths, and they're absolutely enjoying it and Elevate. And as you know, I love helping and coaching people. But anyways, I think that's it. That is a full training week and all the rambling that I've done about myself. Anyways, guys, that's it for me. This is Fuel the Fire episode 4 with me, Naz. See you guys next time.